Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to join you this evening. It's good to be here, even if it's remote and I can't see everyone's faces. So I'm going to give you a quick year in review, and I'm going to finish up with the litigation. So one of the most exciting things I think that's happened this past year is that we've hired an executive director. It is part-time, but thanks to generous funding from Pro Georgia, who recognizes the need to have like staple executive leadership that will see us through transitions in leadership over the years. We were able to hire Linda Bridges, who is a past board member, as our executive director. We're really excited about where we're going. I'm seeing concerned faces on Rebecca and Kim. Can y'all not hear me? You can hear me, okay. All right, so we're really excited about Linda. We're excited to have not only her expertise, but also knowing that, we will have someone who will be able to usher us between administrations as we go forward. So if you haven't met Linda yet, I hope you'll get a chance to have a chance to see her at our state convention later this month. So next up in this past year is we've been consistently working on the People Powered Fair Maps initiative with National. That is a 50 state plus DC initiative, and part of our work in that is really trying to coordinate with our state partners. It's one of the pieces of the memorandum of understanding we entered into with National when we agreed to continue doing this work. And I'm excited about it because we tend to be in a little bit of an echo chamber when we're talking about redistricting. We talk to league members about the need for redistricting and the importance of that. And we need to get outside of just us. We need to be talking to people who don't look like us, who don't have the same experiences as us, because redistricting impacts them as well. And they need to be fluent in what gerrymandering is, how it negatively impacts them, and what they can do to fight it as well. So that we really have a robust conversation about that with everybody in the state, that we're really not just the face of league members. We need to be the face of Georgia. So we have worked closely with the Georgia Redistricting Alliance, which is a work group under our Pro Georgia partners. And I hope everybody was able to attend at least one of the Day of Action events last Thursday. I know that Atlanta Fulton had an event. I know you guys have been working hard on redistricting. The state also had a 1-hour session in partnership with our Redistricting Alliance partners. And we've also been working with Fair Districts Georgia, which is a C4 that is also in that space. So we've been really trying to make sure that we have a cohesive message, that we're reaching lots of different people. And one of the things that the GRA, the Georgia Redistricting Alliance, is doing is working specifically to hire fellows who understand how to build maps so that they can go into communities and help them understand how maps are built and how they can use free software to take a look at what maps look like when they finally come out, and can assess, how it meets their needs and how it doesn't, and what suggestions they can make to their local legislators about, how they should be massaged to be more responsive to community needs. So that's coming soon. And if any of y'all are interested in learning more about the fellowship, please send me an email, Susannah, SUSANNAH at LWVGA.org, and we can send you information about the application process. So People Powered Fair Maps is moving forward. We know that there is going to be redistricting sometime after the census data is fully released, which is probably going to be August, September. The Secretary of State said that redistricting, they'll get together for redistricting probably when frost is on the pumpkin, which we think means November. So we're keeping our eyes and ears open for that. We suspect that they're going to use the lateness of the delivery of census material to give them an excuse to not have a transparent process. So our next big steps is making sure that our legislators know that we're paying attention and that we want transparency. We want to have the ability to give our input on these new districts when the reapportionment process is underway. Next thing is, I mentioned we are partners with Pro Georgia, which is the state table of progressive organizations. Through them, we also chair the work group on New Americans, which has been very challenging this past year because in years past, we go to federal buildings and ceremony sites when new Americans take the oath and become new citizens. And then we sign them up to vote because, it's really important that we get them part of the election process as early as possible. We haven't been able to go in person to do that. But Christian has been keeping in close contact with our contacts down at USCIS to make sure that as soon as the doors are open, we can get in. And meanwhile, with our partners on the New American Work Group, we're making sure that they have the materials they need so that they can assist as much as they have the bandwidth to assist with registering new citizens, or at least giving them the paperwork so that they have the paperwork and can fill it out on their own. It's better when we can be there to sort of walk them through it, but this is what we're doing until we can do that again. The other work groups that we're on and really active on are the election protection and election administration work groups. I sit on those committees, and we worked really hard over the last year to make sure that people were aware of everything happening with regards to the election last year, make sure people knew about, all the changes that were happening as a result of needing to work on the fly to pull off an election during a pandemic. And I think we did a really good job. There were some problems there in May, but I think with our help and the help of our partners, we were able to really help counties make sure that citizens understood what their options were. Some of our partners, including All Voting is Local, worked really hard to make sure that we had as much information about drop boxes as possible. And so we fought really hard for that. We were part of that. They took the lead, but we were definitely pushing and trying to make sure that counties knew where there was money to pay for drop boxes if they didn't have it in their budget, and most of them didn't. I think we were down to just 16 counties refused to have a drop box out of the 159, which is pretty good, all things considered. So we spent a lot of time. We worked with National as well to make sure we were sending out postcards to likely voters. We focused on women of color, and new Americans to make sure they got postcards with information about the election in November and then the runoff elections. Also participated in phone banking and text banking, and I think some of y'all helped with that, so thank you. And we had record voter turnout, which is amazing. And then we had to quickly shift gears a week after the runoff election to start monitoring the legislative session. Sally Fitzgerald, who's with the Atlanta Fulton League and has been our longtime observer, continued to do that work. And then I worked with some of our partners to really focus in on the election law bills that were being passed, or that were moving through the House and the Senate very rapidly, lots and lots of amendments. And we were working to make sure that we had analysis of those bills that could be given to legislators so they could ask important questions and could understand what was in these massive bills. And we ended up with Senate Bill 202 being the one that made it to the end. And it's 98 pages of some really big changes, very significant changes. There were a few good things in the bill, including requiring counties, Board of Elections to notify people for at least 7 days if a polling place changed. That's great, but there's a lot that was not great. And as a result, we got involved with litigation. So, and I know that's the thing everybody's most curious about. So we knew that we were going to be filing litigation as soon as the governor executed or signed the bill into law. What we did not know was that it was going to be as rushed an affair as it was. So the Democratic Party beat us out of the gate in terms of submitting the first piece of litigation, and they were suing the governor. He was the named person, and the legislature. As the second group of litigants out of the gate, we joined with the Georgia NAACP, Common Cause, Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda, the Lower Muskogee Creek Tribe, and then I believe the Georgia Muslim Fund, but I won't swear to that, joined in after we initially filed litigation. And we were our suit is against the Secretary of State and the State Election Board. And the idea is to enjoin them from enacting and enforcing the changes in SB 202. So they're the ones who have to actually make it work. And so we are trying to stop them from being required to make it work. So that's the focus of the litigation. There were two more sets of lawsuits that were also filed. The first one with the Georgia Democrats was assigned to Judge J.P. Boulay, who is out of DeKalb County. I know him, he's a nice guy. He's conservative, but he's fair. And I'm hoping that, he hasn't changed drastically since becoming a federal judge. I don't think he has. He is a new judge, but he got assigned that first one. And because ours and the other two are all similar subject matter, they've been sort of grouped together. The Georgia Republican Party filed to join as a defendant on all of these cases, and we're allowed to do so. And you're running out of time? Okay. And they have become a party to the suit as well. And the current status, we're in early days. If there are any lawyers out there, this can be a lengthy process. The governor and the defendants on the first suit have filed to have the case thrown out for lack of standing. We suspect that the Secretary of State and State Election Board are going to do the same. And there will be a hearing on that, I believe, on May 14th. So we expect to know what's happening next after the 14th. We don't think it's going to be thrown out, but there is no telling. So I'm hoping that Judge Boulay will take it seriously and will not throw the case out. I think there is standing, definitely, especially with our suit, because just the nature of our suit, I think, has a definite chance of having standing. So fingers crossed, we'll make it past the May 14th and just keep moving forward. It could be a while before we even get to a hearing, like a real hearing. So we're not going to have solutions or an answer soon, but we are moving forward, and we'll hopefully have a positive resolution sometime in the next year. So that's pretty much where we're at. I don't know if there's time for questions or if there are questions, but I'm willing to take them if you've got time in your agenda for it.
So they were used. I'm going to suggest that anyone who has questions email them to me or to Susannah, because as she says, this is going to be fairly slow moving.